everyone, it's Helen. Now, we all know that we're coming up to the middle of the summer, which means that it's prime vacation season. As I've spent the first 4 months of the year traveling in England, and as someone who currently lives in a small touristy town, I've come up with some blanket tips and unspoken rules that'll help you and whoever you're traveling with have a better trip. So without further ado, here is how to be a good tourist in 6 easy steps. Number 1, plan ahead. It is extremely helpful going into your travel experience to at least have some sort of plan in order. Obviously, there's the most important things you need to figure out, which is how to get there. Whether you're traveling by plane, train, boat, car, pogo stick, dragon, okay, maybe not that last one. You are going to need a concise way to figure out how you're going to get there and how much money you're going to spend to do it. You also need to figure out accommodation, transportation while you're there if you're flying, and you also need to know what you're going to do when you get there. In my experience goes a little bit better when we have a schedule involved. Now granted, most of the trips that I took in England were class trips where we did have a class itinerary involved, and that actually helped quite a bit because we knew what we were going to do at what times and how much free time we had. When I was traveling by myself, on the other hand, there wasn't so much a plan involved. We had one thing that we knew we were going to do when we were going to be in a select location for 2 days. Now obviously there's a lot more you can do in that time, and it was a little hectic to figure out what you're going to do. There are a number of travel sites to figure out for attractions when you get there. There's things like TripAdvisor, and there's also just things like that you can find on Google. When I was in the UK, some of the sites that I used to find tickets and accommodation included Hostelworld for accommodation, and I used Trainline for my train tickets and Skyscanner to book my airline tickets. Of course, there are the bigger travel sites like Kayak and Expedia and other sites like that. In other words, there are no shortage of websites and resources that can help you plan your trip and help you have the best time possible in the amount of time that you have. Number 2, on the opposite side of that coin, you also need to learn how to be flexible when you're traveling. I know this firsthand, I'm sure all of you do as well. Not everything is going to go exactly according to the way you planned it a few months ago. There are things that happen on the fly, flights canceled, flights delayed, same thing with trains. You could get to somewhere where you're planning to go to the beach and it's raining, so you can get sick, injuries, anything. Learn to be flexible and also to stay calm in those situations. No travel experience I've ever had has ever gone perfect. When I went to Belfast, it was raining most of the time that we were there. If you saw one of my earlier videos on this channel, one of my trains got canceled. There's no shortage of things that can go wrong, but just learn to plan around it and to have some other options, and also try not to get too stressed about it. It happens to everyone. Remember, you're on your trip to have an enjoyable time, and if something doesn't go quite the way you expected it to, you can always look up other options or try to make the best of the situation. Number 3, this almost goes without saying, and this is the most practical thing on this list, I think, and that is pay attention to traffic rules. Whether you're in a big city, whether you're in a tiny little town, whether you're out in the middle of the desert, it doesn't matter. Pay attention to traffic rules. Now, in my town, there are a lot of festivals that take place over the course of the entire summer. There's something going on every single weekend, and in that we get people that come into the area that aren't very familiar with it and its traffic laws. This can also tie into planning ahead. If you're going to a different country or different state or different city, anywhere, you can look up traffic laws on the web and see what is and isn't illegal. Also, please pay attention to signs. If you come across a one-way street, please don't go down the wrong side of the road for that. If there's pedestrians, yield to them, and also yield to bikes. If you're using a bike, please use a bike lane. I can't tell you how many times I'll be doing my job and driving across town when I get someone who turns on a red light or slows down under the speed limit or doesn't yield to a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Traffic laws are in place for a reason. They are there to keep you, the pedestrians, and everyone else around you safe. Also, don't drink and drive. That goes without saying, but it's not worth it. Please don't do it. Number 4, please be respectful to residents. Whenever you visit somewhere, not everyone there is a visitor. There are people who, coincidentally, actually live in these places. Who knew? Whether they're working at somewhere where you're eating or shopping, or whether they're just walking around, or whether you have to drive through their neighborhood to get somewhere, you will encounter residents, and it is especially important that you respect them and their space. I found I got better help when I was traveling in England if I was nice to the person, and it always makes me feel better when I'm doing my job if people who come to ask me questions ask them respectfully to me. This also includes interaction with residents online. If you go online and you complain about the poor service or poor experience that you had with people who actually live in the place that you're visiting, those people aren't going to really want you back, and they're not going to really want any tourist back. Just be a decent human being. Lucky number 5, there are no special exemptions. Believe it or not, if you're going somewhere for vacation, you're probably not the only person who's thought of going there for a vacation. As such, if there are rules posted about the facility or the traffic rules that I talked about earlier, they apply to everyone, and that includes you. For example, if you're in London and you go to the Tower of London, there is a specific rule about not taking pictures of the crown jewels. This might seem like a simple enough rule to understand, but when I was there was no shortage of people trying to Snapchat a picture of Queen Victoria's crown. Likewise, if you're going to go somewhere and you are going to request a discount for something, if you're going to say, well, just this once, it doesn't mean just this once, because then everyone's going to ask for that same discount. Long story short, if there's a rule, it applies to you, you are not exempt from it, and everyone's gonna have a good time if you just follow them. 6th and finally, and I cannot repeat this enough, be safe. Things happen. Again, obey traffic laws, obey rules, don't go where there's no trespassing signs. If there is an emergency situation, know where to contact the authorities. That includes the fire station, police, 911, medical, anything. Be aware of your surroundings. Try not to go anywhere alone at night, especially if you're in unfamiliar territory. Try to make sure that you have access to a map. Make sure people know where you're going. The list goes on. There are an infinite amount of ways that you or someone around you can get hurt. So the more you do ahead of time to alleviate the possibility of that happening, the better. And there you have it. These are some of my tips for being a better tourist. If you have any rules or tips of your own that you'd like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments. As I said last week, I'm working on reviving my site, DDP, etc. I have a couple drafts that should be up by the end of the day today or tomorrow. You can find a link to that in the description, along with links to my Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Tumblr if you want to know what I get up to when I'm not filming. Be sure to check out my last video on this channel about Illumination Entertainment, and make sure to subscribe here for new videos every single Sunday. You can also subscribe to my second channel for bloopers / outtakes / whatever I feel like putting up there. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to keep living awesome lives, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!